Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is August 28th, 2023. It's already been 3 years since Chadwick Boseman died on this day. Remember, that was the makeshift Jackie Robinson Day in the pandemic season for the MLB. And not only did he die on that makeshift Jackie Robinson Day, he died on the birthday of Jack Kirby, who wrote the Black Panther. And of course, Jackie Robinson was in World War II in a tank brigade called the Black Panthers. Look it up if that's news to you. But a miraculous coincidence, and we talked about how that was the 57th anniversary of I Have a Dream that year. Big World Series number, and sure enough, the Dodgers, who Jackie played for, went on to win the World Series. It was the 116th World Series, where in Gematria, African American equals 116, just like Jackson, as we get Ketanji Brown Jackson, the 116th Supreme Court Justice. But anyhow, here we are now on the 60th anniversary of I Have a Dream. And 60 is a number with a racial history. I've talked about it a lot recently with the deaths of Moses Malone, Daryl Dawkins, and Kobe Bryant, and why Jordan had better be careful at age 60. Today on this anniversary, you have a shooting scare at University of North Carolina where Jordan, made a name for himself before he went on to his NBA career, where he's immortalized as a basketball god. But we're going to talk about the Jordan news coming, or the University of North Carolina news coming on this day in 23, when you think of number 23 with Jordan typically. I know I got him up there with the 45, which he wore briefly. But here we are in 2023. He was 6-0 in finals. He's age 60 right now. And there's something very interesting about an upcoming day in the NBA season. And then also Donald Trump today. His latest court date set for March 4th, the old inauguration day, the day before Super Tuesday, reminding you this is all about politics and the upcoming 60th presidential election. And we've been covering a lot of 60 with Donald Trump since last summer. You might recall last summer his ex-wife fell down the stairs and died, and she died exactly 60 weeks into the Jesuit Ignatian year. And prior to that headline breaking that day, there was a group of conservatives against Trump who brought 60 legal cases for why he should not be the contestant, but the number was 60. And we've been seeing a lot of 60, again, with Trump from his wife's death up through now. And just to remind about some of these 60s, again, on the 60th anniversary of MLK's I Have a Dream. You know what? Actually, before we get to the list of 60s, remember what just happened down in Montgomery with the race brawl? The race brawl, as they broadcasted the day after Trump was in town. Trump was there August 4th. The race brawl was August 5th. A date that can be written 5/8 like 58, and it was right after the 58th anniversary of MLK's speech there. Right now what we see presented to us in the mainstream media, it's far from MLK's dream. It's almost the exact opposite. But again, the news is always trying to paint a picture and getting people to participate. Again, what we're trying to do with this channel is show the way the news uses psychological operations, programmed media, to instill mindsets, and how they're trying to keep us in the same circle we've been in, the same circle and the same cycle we've been in as a people for a long time, going back to MLK's time and before. But again, let's go through all of these 60s, and let's just remember that they keep paying tribute to history and its divisive past. So, and if I didn't say so, in 1860, you got the election of Lincoln, and then the Civil War came and the assassination of Lincoln. In 1960, you got the assassination of JFK after that election. And that happened in 1963, the year of I Have a Dream. And we'll get to what's interesting about those two events, because remember, it was the assassination of Robert Kennedy, who earlier that year had announced the death of MLK. Most people heard about MLK's death through RFK, who was campaigning. And of course, you have RFK Jr. campaigning right now. But anyhow, the 60th anniversary. And remember, in Gematria, Donald Trump is 60. And as we talked about, the DA Willis, she recently asked for the Georgia court date to be October 23rd, and she made that request on August 24th, 60 days earlier. Notice how in Gematria, indictment is 60, like Alvin Bragg. That the first indictment came from New York. Alvin Bragg, 60, like indictment, like Donald Trump. Yankees fell to 60 and 60 in the Braves series at the time of the indictment. Think about that. We covered how the Braves-Yankees series was synced up with the ritual. And again, if you're new here, for a decade we've been showing how sports and news and politics, how it's all scripted together because there's a cabal controlling all these things. The things on the screens that control the minds of the masses, they're being controlled by the Jesuit cabal. Just like how Trump's ex-wife died 60 weeks into the first ever Jesuitic nation year. But the hype for Trump's fourth indictment, it began on August 12th, and that was Trump's 60th day of his age. And when you spell out 4 as a word, it equals 60. Like there's 4 presidential faces on Mount Rushmore, and they're each 60 feet long. Again, Moses Malone, Kobe Bryant, Daryl Dawkins, all their deaths have to do with 4 and 60. And it all goes back to 1983 when Bear Bryant died on January 26th, the years before Kobe died on the same day. Year Moses Malone won the finals while Kobe was age 4. But 4 and 60. And again, all these 60s with Donald Trump in the lead up to the 60th election. Then down in Georgia, one of the latest 60 rituals was Trump just got the attorney Stephen Sato, another 60. And, recent story, 60% of Americans approve of the indictment of Donald Trump. The explanation for his wife's death was that she fell downstairs, which is actually a phrase that has gematria of 60. And she died 60 weeks into the Jesuitic nation year, which began on May 20th, the anniversary of Ignatius Loyola, the Jesuit founder, being shot with a cannonball. And now Trump has an upcoming court date on May 20th, 2024, and it was Judge Eileen Cannon who set him for that date. And again, Billy Cannon died the other year on that date, the LSU Heisman winner who won the championship over Clemson in New Orleans. Exactly what Joe Burrow went on to do, become the second player for LSU to win the Heisman and beat Clemson in the championship. And Joe Burrow transferred to LSU the same day Billy Cannon, the LSU great, died. And then the 4 teams that Joe Burrow played in the playoffs, the year he lost in the Super Bowl to the Rams, he played against the 4 teams that Billy Cannon was a member of. Again, about Jesuits running the whole show. The presidency, the big sports leagues, and scripting it all together. We've shown it too many ways in too many leagues, too many times. And again, in all these years, proven our point because we've accurately been forecasting as well. And there hasn't been any real contention to how all of this could be a coincidence or mistaken. And I do want to talk more about this tropical storm Adalia that's supposed to bring potential flooding and damage to Florida. You'll notice the name of it in Gematria is 127. If you've missed all my work on Maui, go back and check that out because it's all about 127 and the history of weather warfare and how that 127 number goes back to the Jesuits and Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 127, and buildings 1, 2, and 7 on 9/11, the new Pearl Harbor. But yeah, to emphasize more about this 60 thing here, again, Trump, the hype for his 4th indictment in the 4th state, Georgia, came on his 60th day of his age. And again, this latest one comes out of Atlanta, MLK's home city. MLK was assassinated in an election year in 68 on April 4th, 4/4. The name of the judge who did the sentencing today, her name has that gematria of 68, or who set the date for March 4th. And again, that's the year MLK and RFK were assassinated. 68, big year. Fentanyl approved as a drug by the FDA. Coronavirus coined. 911 made the emergency dialing code. World Trade Center construction began. New York Jets only Super Bowl winning season. New York Jets opening the NFL this year on September 11th. Playing the New York team that's outside of the city, the Buffalo Bills. And funny enough, the Jets are on 67 regular season losses against the Bills coming into the game, and 67 including the postseason. Or I might have misspoke. 67 in the regular season and 68 losses including the postseason because they've lost 1 in the playoffs as well. But how funny that it's right at those numbers as they play on 9/11. Notice how in Gematria, with Trump getting the 4th indictment, again in the 4th state, out of Atlanta, where MLK is from, who was killed on 4/4, and the first president to die in office was April 4th, and JFK was the 44th term president, and so on, this fateful number. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham with all the 44 connections. But here we are in 23 that this ritual aligns, right? The 60th anniversary, the upcoming 60th election. A lot of people seeing, well, it's funny. I mean, in different Americans' minds, they see totally different things based on what programming they're into. But some people see Donald Trump as the complete opposite of the MLK dream, and others see him maybe as something more like that. But it's created this very divisive, polarizing moment. Isn't it interesting how Dream and Donald are 23 as well? And here we are in 2023, and we've talked a lot about that number this year. Notice how from Donald Trump's birthday to this anniversary of I Have a Dream is 75 days. 75 days. Martin and Gematria, when you run the alphabetic order forwards, is 75. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse, it's 87. And when you run it forwards, I Have a Dream is 87. And from MLK's I Have a Dream speech to JFK's assassination November 22nd, that's a span of 87 days. But they also moved the 75th Emmys from now until next year on MLK's birthday. The 75th Emmys are going to be on MLK's birthday. And again, Martin Lawrence is turning an interesting age next year. I feel like Martin Lawrence better look out. Emmys are about TV. Martin was a big sitcom in the 90s. But yeah, 60 and 75. These numbers also come together through the word order. And we know the order that's running the show is the Jesuit order. And we know they're very much a sun cult, but also a death cult. And 4 is this number of death and killing. Hello, what just happened to Maui? 4 days after Obama's birthday on the 4th of August. And 4 years to the day of Dora the Explorer ending. And again, MLK, Malcolm X, both killed in 44 rituals, along with so many other people. So, again, it's like the powers that shouldn't be. They tease us with these nice thoughts and these goals to work towards, but then they also torment us with the nonstop propaganda and division and threats and fears. Let's just say the Jacksonville story's real the other day. Does that need to be all over the news and talked about for days? Does that need to be everybody's focus that one loser in Jacksonville did that? I mean, you'll hear the same media come on and say, well, the fear of putting this kind of information out there is it might make the next guy like this feel like he can get his 15 minutes of fame. I mean, they're saying all this stuff over the same decades. It's like, yeah, exactly. And maybe that is true because if anything, in the years of broadcasting all this since Columbine, there's just way more school shootings when it wasn't really a thing before. So who's made it a thing? And we know that from understanding the knowledge, we see what's really going on, how the government and the media are on the same page. The media might as well be the fourth branch of government and be the propaganda wing, because that's really what it is at this day and age. But yeah, it's just, these are games being played with us, you guys, and by a numerical code. And again, DC is known as the Masonic City, and they etch on their temples all as number. And modern Freemasonry is a Jesuit creation. Like Trump's a Jesuit, like Biden's a Jesuit, like so many people in the land of DC, which has always been a Jesuit stronghold, are Jesuits. And even if they're not part of this Jesuit network, doesn't mean they're not controlled by it. I don't think the DA Willis is, but it's obvious they got her on the script, making her request 60 days prior in light of all the 60s we've been documenting since March 30th. It all started on the opening day of the MLB season as we lead up to the 119th World Series, where Donald has that big 119 connection and was called president-elect in the early hours of November 9th, 119. The anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, when he was Mr. Wall who wanted to build a wall. Here, let me pull up this story here about the University of North Carolina. They said it was an Asian shooter. It reminds you of the Michigan State thing where James Harden. You guys, we always talk about the Michigan State shooting was on the 44th day of the year, and James Harden had this tribute game for the survivor of the supposed attack, and there were all these 44 rituals in the game, and James Harden equals 44 like shooting. So today we have this shooting scare at UNC. And my first thought was just, and again, this is where critics will be like, that was your first thought. The reason my first thoughts are the way they are is from looking at how all this stuff really unfolds year after year and just showing year after year how it's all synced up. But my first thought was, I wonder how today aligns with Michael Jordan. And I wasn't disappointed. Today's Michael Jordan's 193rd day of his age, the 44th prime number, the number that always gets imprinted in these shootings. And I was just talking about the significance of him being in Italy on July 6th or 6-7. And what it has to do with the upcoming date, November 3rd, well, today is 67 days before November 3rd. And of course, North Carolina equals 67. Michael Jordan's 113, as is Kobe Bryant, who made his NBA debut on November 3rd. In 96, the year Jordan won his fourth finals. Now it'll be 4 seasons since the season Kobe died in. You know, next year, January 26th, will be the 4th anniversary of Kobe's death, and they're putting up the statue shortly after on February 8th. Again, in the Nuggets match, when, as we've been saying, way before they announced that statue for, that game against the Nuggets for the Lakers, we've been making the point. Kobe died exactly 38 weeks after his wife's birthday, had the affair in Colorado, the 38th state. And Nuggets just won the finals, 4-1, outscoring Miami by 41 points on number 41's birthday when Djokovic was the 41st pick of the draft. And now Lakers Nuggets, Kobe dead at age 41, as we know, on the Pope's 41st day of his age, while traveling from Catholic Mass when Kobe Bryant equals 41. But yeah, just how all this stuff's connected. And again, I mean, the other thing about the November 3rd date we're looking at, not only is it the 27th anniversary of Kobe's debut, it will be the day the Bulls play Brooklyn. And Jordan's from Brooklyn, New York. And funny enough, he has this wife, and it's going to be her 223rd day of her age, 223, which goes with the Gematria of Brooklyn, New York, but also Philadelphia, and it's the Biblical Synagogue of Satan, and it's been a big number in 2023. And Jordan finished his career in Philly, Kobe's hometown, so anyhow, very interesting. And notice this ritual at University of North Carolina. They said it began at 2:30 p.m. today, 2-3, in the year 23, like Jordan number 23, and it ended at 3:30. Ended at 3-3. Remember, Michael Jordan won his 3rd championship, and then 33 days later, his dad was found dead in a big ritual. Off US 74, like Kobe dead in the 74th season, like Moses Malone drafted in 74. But notice, police, federal, masonry, secrecy, order, and Michael, all 33, right? Began at 2:30 like 23, ended at 3:30 like 33. And again, from his birthday, his 60th birthday today, 193rd day of his age, 44th prime. Just talked about, we talked about that pattern with shootings a million times and what they just did with James Harden and the Michigan State victim from the 44th day of the year. Again, if you missed my work on Jordan being in Italy 201 days after the Pope's birthday on July 6th, go back and check that out. And yeah, it's just a reminder that the first major gun control legislation in this nation's history was October 22nd, 1968, 201 days after MLK's assassination. So Jordan, born in 63, the year of MLK's speech. And again, MLK inspiration, Jordan inspiration. These people, they give us little tastes of inspiration, but it's like they're constantly working to kill it. So you line up at the pharmacy for some antidepressants or some mood improvers. So. Yeah, just wanted to make sure all that's clear. And again, the history is 60, 1860, 1960, fateful elections. All right, let me put my eyes on the chat real quick. Anybody else see anything about what's going on with the 60s right now? Are there any big 60s that I'm overlooking? Thank you to everyone who hits the like. Law enforcement involved helicopter crash in Florida. I did not see that one. The storm in Florida is supposed to make landfall in 2 days, Wednesday, which is August 30th. Think about that date, 830. As we know, flood has the gematria of 83. Genesis 8:3 is where the biblical flood began. We were just about where the rocks connected with Hawaii, and how he played for the Miami Hurricanes. Jason says, Zach, the day LeBron broke Kareem's record, his sons were wearing Jordan 4s. And remember, the day the day before Kobe died, he fell to fourth in points scored when LeBron passed him in his hometown Philly. So interesting. I got to go back and confirm that one. His sons were wearing Jordan 4s. I see. And then the whole 66 goes with LeBron's entire career. Yeah, I started by talking about Chadwick Boseman, indeed. Again, he died on the 57th anniversary of the MLK speech. World Series equals 57. Dodgers went on to win the World Series that year. And we loved the Dodgers all year. We saw what they did with the Mookie Betts ritual. Wilt Chamberlain was Rookie of the Year in 60. Okay. Might be something to look into. Yeah, we talked about that, the Bronny Sun signing and the Cavs owner's death. That was on that crazy day, May 6th. All those rituals on May 6th. Thank you, Diana. Yeah, March is the 60th day of the year in a non-leap year. Next year, it'll be the last day of February. You get the extra February day in a leap year. Next year, it'll be February 29th. The new hurricane name, Adalia, Tropical Storm Adalia. So expected to become a hurricane. But yeah, they're saying it should make landfall Wednesday. And it's got that 127 in it, the number that's all over the Hawaii thing. And again, just the whole rock angle. Used to be the Miami Hurricane. Here, Adalia name meaning. Let's see. Behold the sun. Several baby naming websites say Adalia is a name of Greek or Spanish origin and means behold the sun or simply the sun. In Greek mythology, it was linked to Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love. Well, hopefully it's just a nice little pretty rainfall that doesn't hurt anybody. But the sun, well, we know what order has the symbol for the sun. So we'll see soon enough. I hope it's overstated like it was for most of California. The phrase behold the sun equals 52 and 56 like hurricane. Here, let's check that out. Behold the sun 52, 56. Remember what they just, yeah, there it is. 52, 56, just like hurricane. Just like Gavin Newsom. If I can type. Remember, we just saw Gavin Newsom declare the state of emergency for Hurricane Hillary 52 days before his 56th birthday. It's like when the Astros got flooded by, or Houston and Texas got flooded by the numbers in the Major 52 ritual. Matt Harvey was the first player to pitch in Houston after the flooding of Harvey 52 days before the start of the World Series, and then the Astros won it in their 56th season. So, again, just how Gematria works, forwards and backwards, and how we can see that this is the correct system. Just too many examples that just build with time. And again, if it wasn't true, we wouldn't have been able to accurately forecast as we have so many times like the year of that World Series. But yeah, how interesting that behold the sun equals 52 and 56. And we were just talking about how it poses a flooding threat for parts of Florida. And it'll be August 30th, 8-3. How do I get rid of all these quotes? Can I just use the calculator? God. All right, 52 and 83. 8:30 date. The name of the storm has the 52 connection. Yeah, good one. Good one. Shout out to Rick James. Rick James says our 19-year revolution, it's way overdue. Truthers mount up. Indeed. Indeed. The effects start on the day, leaving 124 days left in the year, going with Florida. Yeah. Good research. Perfect. Florida, 124, indeed. Yeah, next year in 2024, March 4th will be the 64th day of the year. Absolutely right. Trump's Jesuit education began at Fordham in 64. By the way, Fordham does a lot of 88 rituals. That's where Trump went to school, who is Mr. 88. Said before, if only we could if we could take over the government and use like its FBI to investigate Georgetown and Fordham, I think a lot of the scripts that are playing out in the news and the elections, they're being housed there. Just like how Georgetown simulated the election dead on June 12th, 2020. You guys are talking football. Something to think about. Here, I'll tell you something interesting to think about with the NFL season. So the first game of the year is the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs playing the Detroit Lions. And let me put this up here real quick. Remember how State Farm equals 103? Last year was the 103rd NFL season. The Super Bowl was in the State Farm building. And Mahomes went into the Super Bowl 10-3 with a playoff record, and he won the game, becoming 11-3. And Scottish is 103 and 113 in American football is credited to a Scottish Rite Freemason. Well, this year is going to be the 104th season. Anyway, the season begins with Patrick Mahomes, who does the State Farm ads, hosting the Detroit Lions, and the weekends with Aaron Rodgers and his new New York team on September 11th, playing the Buffalo Bills. All New York matchup on the day, leaving 111 days left in the year. Again, 9/11, Monday Night Football, Jets, Bills, all New York. New York 111, just like how New York lost in the 111th World Series to the Royals when the Queen was living, born on the 111th day of the year. But the Chiefs hosting the Lions is interesting because remember last year, Aaron Rodgers, it was unveiled that he got his first ever tattoo. And it was of Leo the lion, and it had all this astrology on it. And then the last week of that NFL season, 8 teams came into the last week 8-8. And Rodgers was playing the Lions, and Rodgers lost, and he stayed on 8 wins for the season, and the Lions stayed on 8 losses. And it had to do with the seeding of the playoffs, the outcome of that game. And so I'm just thinking about that now, because this year, see how the word lion is 50? There's something up with the Lions signing Teddy Bridgewater on August 8th this year, which is the Lions Gate, which was the anniversary of Rodgers' tattoo, and wearing number 50 because he's a quarterback and quarterbacks don't wear 50, but he did, and Lions 50. It's also 23 like the year we're in. So that really pay attention to those scores week 1. What do the Chiefs do against the Lions? It's going to be what's his name? Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions, going to be his 35th game with the Lions to open that season on the Thursday. And you remember how Len Dawson died 172 days before the Super Bowl? The opening game for the Chiefs is going to be 172 days after Andy Reid's birthday. Anyway, I still got to look at it more. I just started to look at NFL stuff, but that's what I'm marinating on right now. What are they doing with Mahomes and Rodgers this time? Starting and ending the first week with these big storylines, defending champion, Aaron Rodgers, the veteran, and again, it's always 39 in New York, right? We call New York the 39 city. Brett Favre turned 39 as a member of the Jets. Aaron Rodgers goes to New York at age 39. But I forgot to make the point. Jesuits, 103. Rodgers, 103. And remember, his full name, Aaron Charles Rodgers, 201 like the Jesuit order. Also 93, because remember, there were 2 World Trade Centers, then there was 0, then there was 1. And there was also the 93 World Trade Center bombing, making his debut with the Jets on September 11th, Again, the same Jets franchise that won their only Super Bowl in the season, where 911 was made the national emergency dialing code and World Trade Center construction began, and 2001 A Space Odyssey came out. And Aaron Charles Rodgers being public enemy number one about the pandemic after Event 201 with a lot of people. But, yeah, we'll be talking football and doing some football live streams pretty soon on Patreon. But, yeah, that's my big marinating thought for week one. Where's that narrative going? What's up with the lion tattoo? What more can we figure out about it? Because here it is again. I mean, you got to ask yourself, what are the odds that the NFL would open up the season with the Lions? I mean, the Lions started to show some signs at the end of last year. They look like they might have been emerging. It might look like it could be a good feel-good story for Dan Campbell. But, again, I just remember it was so tied in with Aaron Rodgers last year. And, by the way, from Aaron Rodgers unveiling his tattoo last year to that final game where everyone was coming in 8-8 after unveiling the tattoo on 8-8, which is in the time of Leo the Lion. Like R.I.P. what happened to the Simba actor in August, right after old Bummer's birthday. But, yeah, again, it was 187 days from unveiling the tattoo, and he came into that game 18-7 versus the Lions, and he lost, and he became 18-8 in the game on January 8th, staying on 8 wins for the year. So, definitely something going on with it. And again, you pay attention to those scores, you learn gematria. Sometimes you can get some whoppers of clues that really forecast where the season's going. And we'll be looking for that this year. So, congrats to the winner, says Zach. Look at the date calculator in hours from MJ's last game to Kobe's last game. Hours. Well, we know what it is in weeks. Okay, hold on. Jordan's last game was April 16th, 2003. 2003, a bit like 23. April 16th, 2003. Kobe's last game was April 13th, 2016, 13 years later. Does this show hours? Oh, 113,000 hours and 904 minutes. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. We always talk about with the Kobe and Jordan thing, the difference is 678 weeks. Both of their names equal 678 in Sumerian gematria. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Again, that's just the alphabetic order times 6. Both of their names equal 113 with the alphabetic order, 113. In Sumerian, 678. So yeah, it is 113,000 and some hours. That is interesting. I mean, if you rounded, really, it's closer to 114, but yeah, what are the odds of that? That's very interesting. I don't think anyone's ever noticed that before. Good one. Good one. All right, but yeah, we'll leave it there for now, True Seeker. Thank you to everyone who hits the like and the share. And until next time.